Welcome everyone to the next episode in our Night Springs series. If you are new, I recommend pausing and watching both the introduction and overlap videos which break down the nature of the TV show before proceeding further. While in the Dark Place, Alan worked on a new set of episodes designed to be a vehicle of escape. In doing so, he collaborated with another in the process. I'll turn it over to this new host for introductions. Enjoy.
We often look back and wonder, what if? What if the path not taken had in fact been our charted course? Would we be happier? Or are we, with our set of choices behind us, the lucky ones? And what if nothing would be different? What if, for some of us, our destiny across the endless number of versions of ourselves has been defined and locked beyond any causality of circumstance, beyond the forces in any one reality, but across all realities? For one man, the magnetic pull of destiny is so great it breaks time and space. We join this lone operative, many versions of him in fact, as he chases his nemesis, a dangerous being known as the master of many worlds. Across the multiverse, across the many versions of a city that is always the same, yet always different. In Night Springs.
Stories are written with intention, a message that the author is trying to convey to the audience. The use of characters, symbols, and narratives are a vehicle to deliver ideas. But what happens when a story can be more than this simple vehicle? What happens when stories tangibly affect the world? Not just here, but in other realities too. Can the narrative be used as a weapon against others? A war being waged by words on page. This may be one intended purpose behind the latest episode of Night Springs, Timebreaker. With that preamble out of the way, let's get into it. Mr. Dorr makes the assertion that despite the different paths that our characters walk, there may be certain fated events. We discussed in a previous video a subject related to this. If anyone is interested, I will link the Quantum Break video on chaos theory below. To summarize it quickly though, the host's philosophy is based upon fixed point attractors, where there is always a fixed endpoint regardless of the path taken. To quote a different person who exists within their own multiverse, constants and variables. So let us look at one variable reality and try to isolate the constants within it. Because at the end of the day, these constants are what is most important and ripple throughout the Sea of Night. The narrative of Timebreaker follows the story of the actor. Unlike Number One Fan and North Star, we are given a proper name, Sean, named for his real-life actor, Shawn Ashmore. Throughout this episode, we see the actor travel between many worlds, many variable realities. Each one has a different setting and different rules, but there is one unifying trend between them. With each transition between worlds, the new location is announced with a polyhedron. In addition, there is a patch on the actor's jacket with the same geometric shape. For those paying attention, these are referenced in the main narrative of Alan Wake 2. One reference is Sheriff Tim Breaker leaving behind a note detailing how he tracked down one of them into the woods, believing it was a UFO. More subtle than this, he comments that he used to play Dungeons & Dragons. D&D dice happen to match these exact same shapes. There's a word that describes these geometric forms, Platonic Solids, named for the philosopher Plato, who mentions them in a dialogue called Timaeus, which was written in 360 BC. In the dialogue, he describes these 5 shapes as the building blocks for reality itself. 4 aligning with the classical elements, earth, fire, water, and air, the final element being ether. Plato mentions that this last element was used by God to arrange the constellations onto the heavens. While the first 4 dealt with physical matter, the last was associated with something more abstract. While this is very likely in no way relevant to the narrative of this Night Springs episode, the simple fact that they appear in this manner makes me question why. More than that, we see a total of 6 symbols appear and a 7th one described. These last 2 are not listed as Platonic Solids. Both of their realities are unique, as we will discuss. The structure of this analysis will go world by world and discuss the specific shape aligned with each reality. It may not impact the contents of the story, but please bear with me. Personally, I just think it's cool, and I'm a nerd for these kind of things. So, let's go. Our first area is represented by the tetrahedron. It represents the element of fire. Its function is manifestation, and it deals with the creation of new things by shining a light on ideas. Wait, this might be more relevant than I thought. Nice. We see this expressed in this world where Poison Pill Entertainment is working on a video game, engaging in their own act of creation. In Night Springs, their name is opposite of their real-world counterpart, from Remedy to Poison. It is not the first time a variant of this company has been seen in the RCU. Within the Prime universe of Alan Wake and Control, Remedy exists using their own name. On the 3rd floor of the Panopticon in the oldest house, we see the Remedy offices scratched out. Also, in the world of Crossfire X, we find a random room where a Remedy employee is working on the level design of a new game, presumably related to the Max Payne remakes if the marketing on the walls are a hint. That's enough about them though. The plot begins with a pseudo-sequel of Quantum Break being developed, Timebreaker. Sam confirms that this has been a long time coming and explains to the actor Sean some of the finer points of the story. Largely, it goes over what we know about the Remedy Connected Universe, that the multiple worlds have their root in storytelling and collective belief. Anything one can imagine is real in some form. This goes against the multiple worlds rule found in Quantum Break. In that game, reality split because of different choices made by the characters, branching out into infinite parallel realities set in the same world, rather than different conceptual realities in different worlds. It's an evolution of ideas, now that we are much further into the series, and Remedy has began to reveal how stories connect together. Before heading back to the green room to review the script, the actor is given a crash course on the technology in the series. Many of these are reimaginings of old concepts. Shifter energy nodes are physically in the shape of the Platonic Solids that we mentioned earlier. The polyhedron reality shifter gathers the energy from them. Twice already, we have the term shifter, which is taken straight from Quantum Break. On top of this, there is a fancy term that Sam uses for the flashlight in the setting, Timebreaker Solidifier, another possible reference to the entity of shifters. I will link my video on shifters in the description below. But as a quick refresher, they are described as chronon-disrupted lifeforms, existing in a state of quantum superposition with other variants of themselves. As a result, the death of one does not mean the death of them all. We witness this with the multiple deaths of Martin Hatch, and yet, he still returns after. According to some whiteboards within Monarch headquarters, there are only 2 ways to truly kill a shifter: kill every variant of the individual, or collapse the wave function of their existence, to break it out of the state of superposition and make it one solid entity. Hence, the Timebreaker Solidifier doing just that. While it appears like a simple flashlight, it collapses the Timebreaker's wave function and makes them solid enough to damage. The simple fact that these details connect so cleanly with Quantum Break lore tells us one thing: the inspiration that Alan drew upon while writing this may be from that reality. Even before falling into the dark place, Wake was able to see events happening in other places and other times. But since he's been there for 13 subjective years, who knows how many realities his stories have moved into? How many places he has witnessed? Is he aware of the events that occurred in Riverport, Massachusetts? Did he draw upon them to write this new story? After all, Remedy did the exact same thing in real life, drew upon another game they made as inspiration for this new story. Is it out of the question for Alan to do the same when writing this Night Springs episode? If so, that only confirms that Quantum Break still exists, within its own pocket universe. An island on the Sea of Night, where waves are both wilder and more serene.
To its ports I've been, to its ports I've been.
And I've already gotten distracted. Let's get back to Timebreaker. Sam also mentions the Ripple Effect Corporation. This is a group that monitors interdimensional occurrences from an outside viewpoint. We will put a pause to that and discuss it when we get to that world. All that is important now is that all of the aforementioned technology was designed by them. Before leaving to head to the green room, Sam lays out the plot of the story. There's an entity named Door who is hunting down variants of the protagonist among many worlds. Each time he kills one, they are brought back as Timebreakers, creatures bound to the will of Door. Inside the green room, the actor discovers the first victim of this story, Agent Branch of the REC. The reason for his presence in this reality is not explained, but he is the latest victim of Door's crusade. After a short meeting with Branch's partner named Agent Jespeth, the actor is transported from this place to the second reality on his little adventure. The second world is represented by the octahedron. It represents the element of air. Its function is emotion and deals with developing compassion, not only for others, but for yourself as well. As a result, it is linked to the connection between the inner world and the outer world. The location the actor finds himself in is based off of the woods surrounding Cauldron Lake. Whether or not this is supposed to be Bright Falls or some random forest is not confirmed. Personally, I would like to say it is supposed to be around Cauldron Lake for one main reason. If the world is represented by the octahedron, it ties back to an investigation that Sheriff Breaker was looking into. One night when sitting on his porch, Breaker had an odd feeling and jumped to his car to follow it. There wasn't something to see, more an emotion, something abstract that led him. These feelings guided him to the area around Cauldron Lake. At one of the campgrounds, he paused and looked up. Saga found a notepad he left behind which details what he saw. I scanned the sky for shapes, the object, nothing. But when I blinked repeatedly, I think I saw the afterimage of an octahedron. It faded fast. When I got ready to drive back, I felt someone watching me, here but not here. It's him. I know it is. Does he know I'm getting close? I'm on the right track. I was right to come to Bright Falls. Has anyone else had that experience when you stare at something too long then close your eyes? Especially when in the bright light? The image remains on the back side of your lids. That is what Tim experienced. However, instead of physically seeing this octahedron, it only appeared with eyes shut. This character has a strong connection to other versions of himself. So much so that by the time the actor appears in this new reality, he hears the thoughts and speech of the him that resides here. Is it so out of the question that Sheriff Breaker is capable of the same? It seems like an odd coincidence that the actor comes to this location that is represented by an octahedron, while in another world, a variant of his is drawn to the exact same spot, and sees an image of the same thing. When looking at Night Springs and reality side by side, I question, did this situation leak out from the TV show into reality? An afterimage just like the shape behind Breaker's eyes. Was it an accidental side effect? Because the actor witnessed the octahedron as a bright shape, that image transferred to Sheriff Breaker as an afterimage. Almost like his eyes remember seeing the bright shape despite not having seen it for real. Or was it intentional? A means of communicating something to Tim for some reason that we are unaware of. Is there a greater meaning behind the events in this little piece of fiction? Or is it all random and has no deeper meaning? Just a few questions to ponder as we continue on. The actor, Sean, finds himself arriving in a new place, his hair grown long to match the appearance of the world's occupant. This detail is a bit concerning. What it tells us is that he truly became a doppelganger. Later on in the woods, Sean hears the death of the original person, informing us that at some point, two of them were present in the same world at the same time and looking identical to one another. If we accept this as a function of these multiversal agents, how would this look from an outside observer? Could we ever know if a character we come across is the one from our world or an imposter from another? Has this phenomenon already occurred? Would us as the player ever know if it had? Luckily, there is a telltale sign that something has happened. Upon entering a new world, if we turn around, there is a Luma Vista TV showing our entrance point. The screen is broken with a hole in the center. This is our clue that someone has entered the world from somewhere else. Back in the tetrahedron reality, we see this exact same thing in the green room, the location where Agent Branch entered through. We see this same thing in every subsequent world transition, a broken Luma Vista TV. The only exception is this one, the octahedron. Why? Because the actor did not travel here through a Luma Vista. He was transported by other forces. This informs us that the TV is not the only means of dimension hopping. I may need to replay the entire Remedy franchise to try and see if these broken TV sets appeared before. We just never noticed. Wouldn't that be crazy? Of course, this is only if we accept the idea that these types of things are not confined within Night Springs, but actually reveal rules that may affect the Prime universe as well. Again, we are getting a bit distracted. Let's get back to the story. The actor locates a trailer that his other version used as shelter. The place is a treasure trove. The same UFO books that Breaker had in his desk are here. VHS films sit on the entertainment center. Titles like A Stranger Named After Me, Taking Back the Dark, She Was Never Mine, and Abandoned by Eternity. All echoes of his personal story that are self-explanatory. In the office is a whiteboard that shares some alternative names for the red-headed girl he knows. Strangers named after her. Lisa, Eliza, Jessie, Elizabeth, Liz, Savage, and Dylan. The last one may hint at some tinfoil theories about Jessie and Dylan Faden. Other than this, there are references to the Master of Many Worlds, Dr. Darling's book on the Many Worlds interpretation, and a drawing showing where he is on the spiral. The calendar on the wall is set to February, giving us a timeline on when this occurred. The most recent draft of Return occurred in September of 2023. This February could be earlier that year, the following year, or a random February at any point before or after. There is no real way of knowing. All it does is give us a month for when Alan likely finished this episode and aired it. From here, the rest of the story is simple. Finding the energy node in the shape of the octahedron, taking its energy, finding the dead body of his variant, then entering the TV to go to the next world. The third world is represented by the icosahedron. It represents the element of water, and its function is transformation. It deals with removing blockages from the psyche, going with the flow rather than placing internal obstacles in your path. Behind the actor, we see the sign of his passing, the broken Luma Vista TV. The first thing that becomes obvious is that his original version is no longer present, likely having already been taken out by Dor. Again, we see him physically change to reflect the native version of himself, his doppelganger. From here, he heads out into the lobby of the Oceanview Hotel. This location should be easily recognizable. We already know it acts as a pathway between different worlds. Deeper answers on its origin, physical location, or what secrets it may hide are still unknown. For the time being, Alan took this location and injected some good old time manipulation into it. Considering the root of this story draws upon Quantum Break, it goes with it thematically. In short, the hotel exists outside of time. All it takes is to walk through a door to travel between them to the same location separated by fourth-dimensional space. So far, the only things we have seen the Oceanview do is transport one between different states of reality, a place to travel through. Largely, it was used to alter things in the oldest house. It contains a path through the spiral door to the dark place. Jessie also used it to travel deeper into herself to locate and reactivate the Polaris resonance. Is it so out of the question that these intermediary hallways go through time as easily as they travel through physical space, different realities, and even cognitive space? One mystery we won't be able to riddle out is what is outside of these walls. If the prior versions of this building is a guide, there is something outside of the front door, whether we can walk out or not. However, in this case, it is barred off by the REC. Signs posted on the exits identify anything outside as a bleed zone. While this is not explained outright in the game, it appears that these are locations where holes open up between worlds and contents pass between them. It is very likely why another one of these bleed zones was located in the octahedron reality. There, a fence was erected to bar access to Cauldron Lake. After all, the lake itself is a massive hole between worlds. It could be classified as a bleed zone, albeit a mostly stable one, but we may have seen one of these long before that was unstable, although we did not have a name for it at the time. Down in the foundation of the oldest house when the astral plane began to leak in. They even called this section of the foundation the Cave Bleed. If we accept that somewhere on the Sea of Night the REC truly exists, this may be the exact type of instant they would respond to. We know that the stakes in the DLC involved the astral plane spreading out and consuming everything. Most likely the idea for this agency did not exist at the time Foundation was written. Also, Director Faden managed to repair the nail before the bleed got worse. Since there is a variant of Jessie working at the REC, let us headcanon this and say that Jezbet did not feel their interference was needed since another version of her had it under control. At least that's how I will rationalize it for now. A bigger question is, why is this new organization present? The idea is brand new to the franchise and something that Alan concocted for a random Night Springs episode. While it is a cool concept for a group existing outside of the connected universe trying to maintain order, there may be more to it. It almost feels like a necessity. Alan's time in the Dark Place showcased just how thin the veil between realities really is. Entities like Door can easily traverse it. The Dark Presence, the Hiss, the Mold, they have all punctured through and threatened the world, not to mention whatever exists within the Other. I can only imagine that instances of this will increase moving forward. Even though this story exists within a fictional TV show, by dragging it in now, he sets up a force that could oversee things if they got out of control. As we will see further on, the reason behind their formation in-universe is one thing, while Alan may have done it with a different goal in mind. Either way, it feels like this plotline is intended to create a potential ally in the future that can act omniscient in his stead. After all, once he leaves the Dark Place, his foresight will likely diminish. With that out of the way, let's head to 3 PM in the lobby. Here we find an interesting tidbit that makes me question a few things. A movie poster for Death Rally. The taglines all over the poster have lines straight from the game. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but they say petrol in his veins and fast lane straight to hell. The text at the bottom confirms this is made by Dark Place Films, a movie by Thomas Sane, with him playing the character of the Rhymer. This simple inclusion makes me question a few things. Is this something that Alan himself included in the story? If so, it seems like a random thing to reference another variant of his. Another possibility is this is an anachronism within the narrative, a third party injecting it in, editing the episode before it aired for its own purpose. I may release a full video on this at a later date, but let's take a short look at it for now. The protagonist of Death Rally is not Tom Reimer as the movie poster would have you believe. It is a random wanderer dragged into this race called simply the Driver, forced to confront the Demon King of the race, aka the flame-crowned Demon King, aka the Adversary. The protagonist, however, is aided by an entity named True Tom Reimer, who expresses himself as a possessed car radio, very much like Diver Zane expressed himself through the television to Cynthia Weaver. So, why is this poster claiming that the Reimer is the main character? Well, according to one conversation in the game, it is revealed that True Tom was once a driver in the Death Rally, that he challenged the Adversary, lost, and was cursed by the Demon King, presumably putting him in his current form, stripping his existence down to just a voice over the radio. It is possible that this film is intended to be the prequel where True Tom challenged and lost. Later, the driver succeeded where True Tom failed. Or there could be something else going on here. Again, I will have more to say on this in a later video, but this being here, frankly, feels out of place. It doesn't serve any purpose to the plot of Timebreaker and sticks out. An anachronism. Let's put a pin in this for now. Moving back to 12 p.m. in the lobby, we find a comic book with the actor's face on the cover. At least it is someone wearing his face again, as the poet Poole would say. This comic is conveniently located in the same time as the Luma Vista TV, almost as though it leaked in from somewhere else. While not much is explained on the cover, it has a few details, like calling it the zaniest story published by this writer. The expression turns the mind to the aforementioned filmmaker. The comic includes a 3D map of the Ripple Effect Corporation and the origin of Door. We have some good news and bad news. The bad news is we are not able to open this comic book up and get these details. The good news is we don't have to, because upon grabbing the energy from the icosahedron and traveling through the TV, the actor finds himself inside the world of this very comic book. Finally, we get to the point of this Night Springs episode where the rules change. The Platonic Solid pattern is broken. For the shape on the scene transition and the patch on the actor's jacket, we have a simple circle, or a sphere. From simple sacred geometry, a circle is something that contains all potentials, like a seed that has not yet bloomed. As a certain long-nosed fellow would say, it is like the number 0, empty yet holding infinite potential within itself. How fitting, considering the position the Ripple Effect Corporation is in, overlooking the entirety of the Sea of Night, at least from this lofty vantage point in Night Springs, the outer bounds of the circle that the rest of the worlds reside within. Empty, but holding infinite realities. On the interior, it becomes very apparent what inspired this location, both the oldest house and the headquarters of Monarch Solutions. One subdivision of Monarch studied ripple causality. I can only imagine that if this department got more funding under Martin Hatch's direction, Monarch would evolve naturally into an organization like the REC. Just another example of Alan drawing upon that story for inspiration. Upon arriving here, the actor has a reunion with the red-haired agent, one of Beth and Jesse's variants. For some reason, Ati is here to clean the place up, providing a friendly face for this episode's hero. This portion of Timebreaker does two primary things. Most importantly, it confirms the interconnections between various versions of a character, that real, fictional, and subjective reality all interweave. The medium of the art doesn't really matter. Video game, book, film, TV show, they are all equally real at the same time. Echoes between one affects the other, usually in small ways. As a result, it is easy to see how a simple episode of Night Springs is more important than it first appears. These stories are self-contained and don't translate one-to-one to the main plot, insulated from the Prime Universe. However, the events that occur within go on to inspire other things, rippling out and affecting the main plot's past, present, and future. Jespeth comments that the random emotions the actor feels towards her is an echo from their lives as Jack and Beth, his promise to come back for her. That luck is simply an echo from a reality where you succeeded in your current endeavor. This is important for the second aspect of this comic that possibly has multiversal ramifications. As promised on the cover of this comic, the story delves into the origin of Door. And it just so happens to be the exact same backstory as Martin Hatch. Existing long ago, they find a cave where the Meyer-Joyce field had been disturbed, time acting funky. This is where the accounts of the two versions of the story diverge. In fact, they are quite opposite. The inspiration for this event came directly from the untitled note in Quantum Break. Hatch relates how he entered the cave and due to the unnatural energies, became a shifter. Chronon-disrupted life forms exist in a state of quantum superposition. experiencing all versions of themselves at once, past, present, and future. However, Alan chose to change this backstory in one critical way. Rather than connect Door to all versions of himself, he had the character go into a feedback loop that killed all versions of himself instead. This is a significant change. If we remember, one of the only ways to kill a shifter is to kill all versions of itself, essentially to collapse the wave function down to a single individual, which is exactly what this story did. Exactly what this narrative change accomplished. Instead of the immortality that Hatch enjoyed, this version of Door is the only one across the multiverse, at least within Night Springs. This is where a huge question from Timebreaker comes in. Is this also true for the Mr. Door we know in the main story? And why did Alan decide on this change? Going from infinite versions that exist everywhere to only one that can travel between every place freely. If this backstory rippled out of Night Springs, would it have any effect on the real Mr. Door? This seems like a rather big deal. In essence, it would take someone who is essentially unkillable and make them mortal. Mr. Door had a hand in collaborating with Alan on this episode. After all, he is the narrator. Did he know what was in this episode, or did he just do the intro, being clueless about the actual contents of the plot, or allowing them to happen for some unknown reason? Is this simply Remedy attempting to update the ideas they had in 2016 to fit the current story? A natural evolution of ideas? Was this Alan seeking to weaken Door by killing off other versions in one fell swoop? Was it allowed by Door for reasons we don't understand? Or was someone else responsible for this event? Someone who saw Door as an enemy or competitor? I don't feel comfortable saying one way or another. But it feels odd that a story that takes a shifter-like entity and weakens it to the point where it is killable is irrelevant. It is too big of a thing. While the ramifications are possibly confined to this pocket universe, there is also the possibility that it is not. That would be a big deal. I'll leave this question up in the air for the community to ponder. Maybe you all will come up with other ideas. With this done, let's follow the actor through the Lima Vista and drop the resolution. The new 2D world is symbolized by a cube. It represents the element of Earth, and its function is grounding. This provides a strong foundation for things, whether that be physically or emotionally. A balloon will fly away if one does not firmly keep a hand on its thread. It will fly up and eventually explode from the pressure. A structure built on sand will collapse. It needs a strong concrete foundation. The actor is confronted by Door in the flesh, offered the opportunity to join him and rule the multiverse. This again is a parallel to Quantum Break when Jack is given the choice to join Hatch. In Alan Wake 2, he is referred to as an unwilling disciple. This relationship seems to be crucial for all versions of these characters. After all, the naming scheme for Jack Joyce is intended to rhyme with Jack's Choice. This world as a 2D side-scroller jumps back in terms of technology. There's not much to say other than witnessing a character shift back and forth between different eras of computer graphics and gameplay styles makes me openly wish this concept is further expanded on in the future. That is, if Remedy ever returns to the old idea for Void, a space shooter where computer processing power, graphics card, and modeling techniques are power, weapons to be used in space combat. And no, I will not stop bringing this up. I want this to happen. I'm looking at you, Remedy. But again, this cube world doesn't have much to tell us. So let's drain the cube energy node and travel onward. This cold desert, empty of energy, has some amazing implications for the RCU. It is characterized by the dodecahedron. It represents the element of ether, and its function is ascension, the divine creation of life, the highest forms of consciousness, and the connection to higher dimensions. These are the exact things that awaits the actor by the end of his time here. First things first, the dodecahedron is probably the most recognizable shape for the RCU. For starters, it is the shape of the chronon-filled regulator in Quantum Break, the object that directly affects the Meyer-Joyce field and time itself. On top of this is a shape closely tied to the Sterling AWE. As an aside, I find it humorous that the Sterling AWE occurred on May 4th, 2016, the same day that Bruce Livingston submitted the first draft of Time Knife to Sophia Amaral. This Altered World event involved a bright flash of light in a field outside Sterling, Colorado. Upon investigating, a large object made of unknown materials was discovered. It was in the shape of a large dodecahedron. It appears as if something came out of it, almost like it were transporting a passenger of some kind to this location. Considering the shifter energy nodes essentially do the same thing, transport one between worlds, it is possible this was the real-world event that inspired it in Timebreaker. Or it could be irrelevant. Personally, I don't think so. To badly paraphrase Ian Fleming, once is a happenstance. Twice is a coincidence. 3 times? Well, us as Remedy fans better start paying attention. Considering this polyhedron is of the highest order among the 5, it is no surprise we see it all over the place. The desert is covered with millions of these dead energy nodes. The inference is each of them represents a single time someone drained the power to jump between realities. Does this mean that others have come to this desert before? That the actor is not the first visitor to this dead world? Based upon the theming of the story so far, I have a theory. We know each time the actor jumps worlds he leaves behind one of these, implying that other versions of him have already come and gone from this place, each of them leaving a sign of his passing upon the dead energy node. There are other telltale signs as well. On the path to the SEN, the actor finds a manuscript page that details the nature of this world. It is pristine, laid out as if intended for him to find. However, littered all around the desert are copies of it. Some torn in half, degraded, decomposed with the natural flow of time, as if each page was at one point read by a prior visitor. 1 page and 1 dodecahedron energy node for every version of the actor who made it this far. After all, with infinite versions of reality, if 99.9% failed, an infinite amount still made it here, in which case the desert goes on forever. The page itself suggests as much. Let's read it. This was a reality at the edge of the multiverse, devoid of color and energy, an entropic wasteland. Every shape here was formed by dark pages filled with pale words, the underlying tissue of all reality now exposed. The only thing that remained were the dead energy nodes, built to last to the very collapse of the multiverse. Behind each dark dune of this desert lay a further expanse of nothing. There was nothing here except decay and inevitability. The path to oblivion was growing short, but time marched on regardless. If each branch on the world tree is its own world, every leaf or flower is its own pocket reality, then this place is closer to the roots of the great tree. A reality worked by words, not by matter. Through sheer coincidence, this topic can be tracked back all the way to the first video I ever produced on the channel, The Sound of Creation. The idea that the logos behind creation is the fundamental building blocks that acts as the foundation of reality. Before the creation of the world, there was the word, the logos, the rational intent behind the act of creation. Only after the words of the creator were put down on paper did this reality manifest, held together by thought, by the words themselves. Before being written, they were simply ideas in a state of pre-matter. If this reality was written by Alan within Night Springs and the rules apply everywhere, what are the words that manifested the Prime Universe? Something written by Remedy, perhaps? We all get so caught up with what Alan is doing, but don't stop to wonder how his world was created. Does it obey the same rules as this place? Or is this, again, just a self-contained idea that does not reflect onto the main story? The page considers this desert an entropic wasteland. It is the inevitable end of all reality. In our world, it is referred to as the Great Freeze or Heat Death of the world. Every star in the universe will eventually run out of energy. If the second law of thermodynamics is not addressed, then through the simple force of entropy, all heat from these dying stars will evenly disperse throughout the universe, finding thermodynamic equilibrium. This will result in the universe freezing over, as the heat is too far widespread to warm anything. This theory gives us an idea of what happened to this cold desert. Just instead of it freezing over, another form of energy has been depleted. With all that said, the actor travels through this entropic wasteland and locates the final shifter energy node. This one takes him deeper into the roots of reality before even the written word, to a world of pure thought. Before the formation of physical matter, there was only the intention of creation, the ideas plastered upon the blackness of the mind. When spoken, these words are nothing but sounds that convey conscious intention. The actor can choose to sink back into the unconscious oblivion of sleep or focus on a thought. His thought was simply from John 1:1. In the beginning, there was the Word. At this point, his wits return and he is given the choice between his two objects of fixation, the red-headed woman and the master of many worlds, aka Door. The feeling of familiarity with the woman that tracks back all the way to Jack's promise to Beth. The other, the villain who has been tracking down both him and other versions of him. The text adventure leads the actor down various paths. We will explore each of them individually. Some of them go down similar roads with slight divergences. Let's cover the two main choices first before branching off. Choice 1. The Red-Headed Woman. Her name is Lisa, a dancer who wears a necklace with a spiral pendant, one of the names on the whiteboard in the mobile home. His comment about coming back for her is an echo that she unconsciously recognizes. According to the text, the familiarity gives the phrase gravity. From there he can forget his past or conceal it. One leads him to throw the REC equipment off a bridge and into a river. Another leads him to hand the tools needed to cross realities to Ati the janitor. The strange fellow promises to keep them safe, something he did for Alan when he held onto the angel lamp and Alice's photos, keeping them safe in the dark place until the time was right. In both cases, these act as a Chekhov's gun for later. From here, there is some drama regarding Lisa's dancing career and an injury, leaving her to dwell on the emotions of having to step away from something she loves temporarily until she recovers. In order to take her mind off things, Sean takes her on vacation. He rents a private cabin in Bright Falls, located on Cauldron Lake. Alan draws upon his own experience to bring the actor and Lisa close to the lake, to the gateway of his own prison. Once on the lake, she begins to have reoccurring nightmares, visions of herself and Sean existing across the multiverse. She witnesses him being murdered by Door over and over again and becomes afraid to sleep. These nightmares are likely caused by her proximity to Cauldron Lake, almost as though the one who set up this little text adventure had an agenda. This is where the paths diverge. In Water Ending. Despite seeing what these nightmares are doing to her, Sean either hides the truth or doesn't remember because he forced himself to forget. This pushes Lisa into a deep depression, tortured by what she sees and shutting down completely. One night, he awakens and hears a splash. Next to the bed is Lisa's note, telling him that she cannot live with these nightmares and chose to end her life, sinking below the watery depths forever. Inside the note is her spiral pendant, the symbol of the dark place. Whether or not she truly died or ended up in the dark place itself is never revealed. But this ending reminds me of another who carried out a similar act. If what happened in that instance echoes to this case, we can hope Lisa's fate does not end here either. This is the point where the actor realizes he has drifted off course. Destiny ending. Seeing her distress, Sean comes clean about the existence of the multiverse. If he chose to remember earlier, he tells Lisa everything. This leads her to become obsessed and researches everything she can. Eventually, the REC technology that Sean threw into the river ends up washing ashore here. Lisa takes it and uses a Luma Vista TV to leave behind everything and explore her destiny into the multiverse. She leaves behind a note telling Sean this, along with her spiral pendant. If Sean chose to forget the details, Lisa is unable to research on her own. But at some point, Ati comes to her and explains everything. He gives Lisa the REC tech that Sean left behind with him. It is at this point that she enters the TV, never to be seen again. The same note is left behind with the same pendant. All this means from a macrocosmic perspective is that there is a variant of Jesse and Beth that has access to REC tech and is dimension hopping. This is the point where the actor realizes he has drifted off course. Choice 2. The Master of Many Worlds. The decision to follow Door leads the actor to become aware of a godlike alien entity. There's decision as to how to handle it. Either A, pause to meditate on how to confront this overwhelming entity, or B, simply prepare for war. Choice 3. Meditate. The actor rests in the desert for lifetimes, attempting to gain wisdom, to learn how to confront the Master of Many Worlds. He either remains stubborn and continues until he grows weak, or he heads off to explore the desert until he collapses from exhaustion. In both cases, he is found crawling on the ground by another version of himself. The doppelganger offers him a seed. Sacrifice ending. The actor can choose to accept or reject the seed. Rejecting it causes the older, wiser version of himself to drop it. Alternatively, he can take it and plant it. In both cases, the seed grows into the world tree, the Yggdrasil, branches piercing into all realities, forming the foundation of them. A memory falls from the tree like a leaf. Upon taking it, he finds a comic book in his hand that details the events of Odin hanging himself from the Yggdrasil for 9 days, sacrificing himself in exchange for wisdom. The actor follows the example and hangs himself from the tree. While there, all realities are laid bare, all lives, all histories, passing before his consciousness. I have seen some theories that imply the actor takes on the role of Odin in the story, possibly indicating this is Odin's backstory. After all, a version of this character is Jack Joyce, who happens to be a musician, involved in a musical group called My Bleeding Clock, a band that exists outside of the Quantum Break universe as Langston of the FBC is aware of them. That being said, everything is circumstantial, so I personally can't agree or disagree with this theory. For 9 days and 9 nights, he remains there on the tree, the mysteries of the multiverse laid bare. Eventually, the tree grows old, and the branch he hung himself from breaks. The actor falls to the earth. From the highest limb, a fruit has ripened and falls to the ground with him, along with a crooked branch. First, he takes the fruit and finds a figure in the desert, himself from lifetimes ago who lay exhausted and near death. The fruit turns into a seed which he hands to himself, completing the loop. Upon picking up the branch, the actor realizes that he has gone off course, drifted too far away from his goal. Transformation ending. Taking the seed from the future version of himself, the actor is starving and eats it. Quickly, the seed grows inside of him, branches and leaves and flowers erupting up, penetrating his mind so that he can bear witness to all branching realities at once. The wisdom he gained from becoming the Yggdrasil itself is the same as if he hung himself from it. The difference is there is a symbolic connection between him and the tree, almost as though this link caused the tree to take on his consciousness. If the connection between a great tree and the oldest house is accurate, that building may have one as well. Down in the Foundation, Dr. Ash Jr. came to the conclusion that the house could think, that it had desires, that it was a conscious entity, that he was chosen by this being to defend it from a parasitic enemy. If what we just saw in the desert matches what Dr. Ash experienced, it is possible that something similar occurred with the oldest house, that it developed a mind of its own somehow. But let's get back to the story. Eventually the tree grows old. The actor becomes the ripened fruit and falls to the ground, reborn as a wiser version of himself. A second fruit falls next to him and becomes the seed needed to give to his past self. Even this far down the rabbit hole, Alan cannot help but keep up his trend of loops within the story. But if this is a spiral instead, that would imply the seed he hands off grows into a different tree, not the same one the actor became. The inference being there are cycles to reality. As one tree dies, a new one is reborn. But who knows for sure? After handing off the seed, he again picks up the crooked branch and realizes he has drifted too far away from his goal. Choice 4. War. Deciding he must form an army, the actor finds a base of operations, an old, petrified tree trunk, a place of power. If it is petrified, that means it is old, really old. Millions of years of mineralization needed to turn it to stone. Going along with what we just talked about, it could be argued this is an older version of the Yggdrasil, one where a prior version of him had either planted it or became it. After it died, it fossilized. From here, he converted the tree into a grand skyscraper with brutalist architecture. If this thought is accurate, and all hypotheses about it are true, it would imply that the oldest house was molded from the remains of an ancient tree, one that was long dead. However, upon renovating the tree into the building, the organization he created was not the FBC, it was the REC, Ripple Effect Corporation, naming it after the old video game he once worked on with Poison Pill Entertainment, the one he briefly worked for after replacing Agent Branch. It is easy to pause here and say that this is proof that Alan created the oldest house and the FBC as a whole, which has been a common theory since his involvement in Control's DLC. What we have to remember here is that this entire story takes place within the pocket reality of Night Springs. It should not be interpreted as a one-to-one history book for the Prime Remedy universe. That being said, it is likely that something similar could have occurred, maybe with a different character, maybe in slightly different ways, at a different time and under different circumstances. All things come from somewhere, and as the first thought the actor had with this text adventure said, in the beginning there was the Word. If there is a creative mind that formed the oldest house through words, then there had to be a mind to think of it. That mind may be alien to us, we have no way of knowing. If there has been anything I've been trying to get across throughout this Night Springs series, it is that while we should analyze these episodes seriously, they are not a gospel for how things actually unfolded, merely fiction inspired by other things. These other things may or may not be stories told about different other things. Who knows if Alan's inspiration comes from reality or some other source? If we keep these fictional stories in the back of our heads, we may, however, notice patterns in the events we can confirm are fully real within the context of the series. Once we notice those patterns, it lets us fill in the blanks of the story or predict things to come. Just like the actor, I drifted a little off the point. Let's correct course and continue with this path of the adventure. At this point, he reached out to other versions of himself throughout the multiverse and had them become the soldiers in his war against Dor. His telepathic connection made it easy. He met a woman named Jespeth and made her the director of the REC, mirroring Jesse being appointed director of the FBC. This was the point in time before Jespeth met him for the first time, but after he met her. As a result, he already trusted her. It did not help that he has that connection across other lives, between himself and Lisa, Jack and Beth, the sibling and the sheriff, and I presume, in the future, Tim and Jesse. Jespeth already has an object of power, as she calls it, that mirrors the service weapon. The actor can trust her to keep the weapon, or demand that she gives it to him. Either way, the main branch in the story occurs when he decides a path to take for the war. Does the REC research new weapons themselves, or do they travel the multiverse in order to find weapons for the coming war with Dor? Remnant ending. The actor chooses to research the technology internally. Researchers and laboratories are erected. The fruit of their labor is the TBS, the Time Breaker Solidifier, the flashlight device used by the actor throughout the entire episode to collapse enemies down into physical form. With himself, all of his soldiers, and Jespeth armed with a way to fight, they go to war. Dor and his army arrive in the desert. Millions of Timebreakers lay siege to the echo of the oldest house. As the battle wages on, all of his soldiers are killed. Sean and Jespeth retreat down into the bowels of the building, to a place similar to the foundation of the oldest house. The entire structure now on fire. Waiting at the top of the stairwell, there is a choice which changes nothing. Let Jespeth buy him time, or refuse to leave her to fight alone. Leaving her to make the final stand concludes with a kiss and Sean rushing down the stairs. Her position is overrun, and before being defeated, she throws her gun down for him. If he stays with her, they are still overrun and she dies. Fueled by rage, he picks up her weapon, which fuses to his arm. Instead of a weapon he wields, it becomes a part of him, obeying his very thoughts. Eventually, he stands victorious, the only survivor of the War of the Tree, the building itself left in ruins, until some other people happen upon it. While there is no information about what happened after this final stand, all that can be concluded is that the place of power that echoes the oldest house was left abandoned after this great battle. Only remnants of what once was. If there is any parallel to the oldest house's true history, I wonder what secrets lie buried under the foundation of the structure. Weirdly enough, we do find a clue down on the house's foundation, the relocation order document. After the moving wall issue in the oldest house was solved, Director Northmore mandated the foundation be vacated, likely because the board ordered him to get everyone out of this place. One agent was happy because he learned what gave the red sand and stone of the foundation its color. It turns out it is all rusted iron flakes, meaning that at some point there were great metallic structures down in the foundation. Over time, they rusted over and dissolved into dust, leaving behind a red hue in the sand and on the rock. Evidence of a much older operation exists down here long before the Bureau discovered the place. Could this red sand be the remnants of the actor's organization, left to decompose after a great battle? The biggest question is how accurate are the events in Night Springs to what really happened? Was Dor, Timebreakers, the REC, and the actor all involved? Or was it again something similar but involving different people or paranatural entities? A different battle being waged for different reasons. All we know is it appears the Foundation is indeed a graveyard of sorts. Maybe the reason the board does not want anyone there is they want these graves to remain undisturbed. Moving back to the story, after the smoke is cleared, the actor looks at the gun and it turns into a key. Interesting, because Jesse uses the service weapon as a key at certain points in the story. I wonder what else this weapon can be used to unlock. This is the point where he realizes that he has drifted off the path. Destruction ending. The actor directs the REC to investigate other worlds for technology. In the process, they come across a world with only one occupant, an alien being of godlike power that is shaped like a polyhedron. They decide to bring it back to REC headquarters and use it like a weapon against Dor and his army. There are again two decisions. We will follow the path that Jespeth suggested and convert the entity into a bomb. The polyhedron-like entity is taken to the desert outside and set up for the war. Regardless of what other choices are made, the actor's entire army and Jespeth are killed. Whether he sets the bomb off at the start and they are killed in the blast, or he tries to hold off and sets it off after they are already dead, the conclusion is the same. The entity falls to the battlefield and a bright light explodes. A deafening resonance shrieks out against the battlefield and erases everything in its path. By the time the sound stops and the light fades, the actor stands alone in a desolate landscape. The alien is gone. The place of power he fashioned into the house is gone. All remains of both armies gone. Pure destruction. Just an empty desert. This image reminds me of the Hand Threshold, a desert that Jesse and Dylan Faden happened upon. Again, their story and the actor's story may not be identical, possibly occurring in different worlds, but hearing that a great war occurred in a desert using a resonance-based entity that looks like a polyhedron immediately makes me wonder about the nature of Slidescape 36. Director Trench and Dr. Darling uncovered a polyhedron-shaped resonance-based entity in a desolate desert. A viral sound that created a feedback loop which could tear their people apart. It certainly sounds exactly like this bomb that the REC created. Possibly, the detonation left behind what I can only equate to radiation from a nuke. This resonance-based radiation becoming what we know as the hiss. But again, this is just a theory based upon context clues. In Slidescape 36, all that exists besides this viral resonance was 5 black stone structures reaching up into the sky like a hand. Could this be the remnants of the REC headquarters? Or something else? Who knows? I certainly don't. After the dust from this battle settled, the actor picks up the object of power left by the deceased Jespeth. It turns into a key. At this point, he realized yet again that he has drifted off course. Infection ending. In this path, the REC brings back the alien polyhedron as well. However, this time the actor ignores Jespeth's advice. Instead of turning it into a bomb, he decides to research it himself. She is afraid because anyone who is exposed to it goes insane. She believes he is too important to risk exposure. The actor does it anyway and experiences something similar to Dr. Darling. Exposing himself to the resonance, he becomes something greater. It changes him, going from what he was to what can only be considered a godlike being. The polyhedron dies just like Hedron did. This is because he took all of the power from it, draining it like what happened to the energy nodes so long ago in the main part of the episode. This likely gives us a definitive answer as to the relationship between Hedron and Polaris, a body to house the energy versus the pure energy itself. As the actor became infected, his consciousness scrapes across other unknown realities. However, he does not go insane and is able to channel its power. In this state, he exits the building to confront Door's army of Timebreakers. What we know is he sacrificed his humanity in exchange for the power to defeat his enemies. This distracted Jespeth throughout the battle, leading to her death. Witnessing this caused the thing that was once Sean to go into a fit of rage, using the resonance-based power to destroy everything in his path. Unlike the bomb, this destruction was not consolidated to this one reality. I will read this entry in full. The violent cosmic power in you, barely contained, erupts, warping reality. The planets above are thrust into ritualistic constellations, amplifying the force. The resonance pours out of you, destroying everything in its path. Jespeth, all the agents, the skyscraper, the Timebreakers, the desert, the adjoining parallel realities, time and space, permanently scarred with ripples and dunes, shaped by the waves of resonance. The impact of allowing himself to become infected left ruin across more worlds than one, shifting the nature of the multiverse into a new form. What exactly this means is completely unknown. Hopefully, this event is not fated to occur in the Prime Remedy universe. That being said, if this story is a roadmap for things to come, I can foresee a future where an enemy of such overwhelming strength threatens the world. To combat it, someone willingly takes in the hiss to gain the power to defeat this enemy, only to become an even greater threat themselves. After realizing he has gone too far, the actor forces his anger to subside. Alone, standing in the ruined desert, he finds the shifting weapon on the ground. Picking it up, it turns into a key. He realizes that he has drifted off the path. Merged destination. This is the point where all variations of the text adventure come back together. remembering that the reason behind his journey was not to create or destroy worlds. His purpose was solely to confront Door, the master of many worlds. The thought of Door formed into reality, a literal one, but it is closed. If the actor received a branch, he turns it into a handle to open it. If he received a key, he unlocks the door. If he received this spiral pendant, he places the symbol of the spiral onto the door, which allows it to open. This may be why the Dark Place door has this spiral. It originated from Lisa's pendant. Stepping inside, he looks on in search of Door himself. Instead, he finds himself inside the writing room with Alan typing away. The author looks up, and the subject of his writing and the episode ends. It seems the actor did indeed complete his mission to locate the Master of Many Worlds. However, it wasn't the right one. This is significant. Alan decided to write himself with this title to give him greater ability, to push him further up to the point where he could better control the Dark Place and its subjective reality. It could be argued that this entire exercise was solely to ensure he would gain mastery of this place as part of his initiation. If this is the case, can we say that this so-called escape attempt ultimately succeeded as a penultimate event? After all, it could have given him the mastery needed to finish initiation and return, leading to his true escape. Conclusion. This is where I believe the lingering effects of this episode come into play. In the process of setting up these events, he caused some side effects. While trapped in the Dark Place, Alan wrote and wrote, an untold number of stories that could all impact the world in big or small ways. This isn't only true for him, but the actor's journey in this text adventure as well, mirroring Alan's experience, almost as though their stories rhymed. The man who found himself alone in the entropic wasteland crawled on to shape things in massive ways. Some of them have already happened, others may yet to occur in the future. Unlike the POV of the episode, the actor doesn't follow only one thought. He follows all of them at once. As a result, all 7 paths for this adventure are relevant as all of them happened at some point. Let's take a look at all of them to try to figure it out. Path 1. In water. Lisa sacrifices herself to the lake. This one could simply be an echo of Barbara Jagger and Alice Wake. Most likely this already occurred and we have yet to see which person Lisa evolves into, remaining trapped and taken by the dark presence. After all, she is a dancer and engages in this form of art. Or she becomes more like Alice, escaping eventually or mastering herself within the lake's dark depths. Path 2. Destiny. After Lisa takes the REC tech and enters the Luma Vista, she can really go anywhere. This could possibly be the origin of Jespeth or someone else. Either way, there is no way to say whether it has already occurred or has yet to occur. Path 3. Sacrifice. In this path, he fills the role of Odin, just like Alan assumed the role of Casey in Initiation. This allowed him to gain wisdom and a profound understanding of the multiverse. Most likely, this occurred in the far distant past. Path 4. Transformation. In this one, he becomes the tree itself, possibly being the soul and the spirit of the tree/house. Most likely this occurred long in the past, since Dr. Ash experienced something similar while in the Foundation. Path 5. Remnant. Given the physical evidence in the Foundation, it is apparent this event has already occurred. Rusted iron flakes mixed with the sand, which suggest metal structures existing there a long time ago. Path 6. Destruction. If we are correct in presuming this event describes a variation of Slidescape 36's backstory, then it occurred in the past as well. It also might hint at another connection between Polaris and the Hiss, Polaris being the resonance before being used as a bomb. The Hiss, simply the radiation left behind after this entity was used as a weapon of war, changing its perspective on things. Path 7. Infection. This is where things get interesting. An event that can have rippling effects across the entire multiverse. A possible universe-ending event caused by someone possessed by a resonance-based entity, a creature similar to the Hiss itself. Given what we have seen in the Control 2 teasers, would it be too early to suggest this might be the exact plot of the game? The Hiss appear to have escaped the walls of the oldest house, a lone figure standing before a godlike entity. What if someone did exactly what the actor did in this path, allowed itself to be fully consumed by this resonance in order to act as a guardian, a living weapon to wipe out a greater enemy, but in doing so, it became a threat to the very fabric of reality. Again, this is merely the musings of a Remedy lore nerd. Spending too much time in the dark place may have made me a bit sloopy. At the end of the day, Night Springs is not to be interpreted as 100% canon to the Prime Universe, but it is canon to the multiverse. Its events do not directly affect reality, but they echo into reality, giving us a hint of what may have actually occurred, using these fictional stories as a template. If the events the actor experienced and caused were done by someone or something else, there is no practical difference. The end result is the same, just the details are different. As mentioned at the beginning, constants and variables. Many different paths all end up in the same place. As our host tried to warn us at the beginning, and will do so again at the end.
We have witnessed a case of mistaken identity. But in the vastness of the multiverse, with an endless number of versions of ourselves, what is identity anyway? Can there be more than one master of many worlds? Or did our hero take a wrong turn somewhere along the way? Was this particular journey precisely what was needed to make him the one he was meant to become? One thing is certain. I am your host, the one and only Warland Door. And this is Night Springs.
Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please drop a like and subscribe to receive updates on future uploads. If you would like to help support the channel, a Patreon has been set up and the link is in the description below. Have a great day and peace be with you all. The resonance pours out of you. The resonance pours out of you.